Wherever you're watching from, around Australia or around the world, you're about to witness a little slice of Mount Panorama history and Ferrari history combined as Ferrari Challenge Australasia takes to Mount Panorama for the very first time, for the very first stop of a brand new series. It becomes the 5th on the global tour, joining Europe and Japan, the UK, North America, and what a venue to set this opening event up. The 23 turns, 6.2 kilometres of Bathurst Mount Panorama, a circuit with nearly 90 years of history. And we've had some Ferrari history here before, winners of the 12-hour on 2 occasions, but this is something completely different, a brand new series, and it's so cool to see it taking centre stage here at the mountain. Renato Liberto, and alongside him, Tim Brook in commentary, joining me for the very first of 2 races here this weekend. And Ren, we talked through qualifying early today, a 30-minute session. This will be a 30-minute race. It looked like a race between 2 at the front of the Pirelli field, with Antoine Gitney just getting the nod ahead of Ernst Kirchmeier, who put up a pretty good show for pole.
Yeah, a very exciting end to that session, and I've got to say, talking to the drivers afterwards, you know, quite a few did better than they expected within the field as well. So I think watching the session play out before 25 minutes, as they got towards the end, some people were still banking fast laps at the end of the session on 10-lap-old tyres. So I think we might see quite a big mix-up in the mid-pack, but certainly the 2 guys at the front are going to be the ones to watch at setting the pace here today.
Man sitting alongside you has won races here at Mount Panorama in different categories as well. Tim, great to have you here, but you've also picked up the role as driving coach for a lot of these drivers that are across the field. What was the message that you gave them before today? Because they've been very well behaved so far.
Yeah, look, thanks for having me, Chad. Excited to be here and excited to be working with a lot of these drivers. And I think they're all a little bit nervous about what's to come. So a lot of it's just trying to calm the nerves, you know, like they've played practice and qualifying. Just get to the end and kind of reset so they can go again tomorrow.
What fascinated me with qualifying was just how much these drivers improved from their practice times, and in the end we dipped under the 2-minute 10 bracket, which was where Antoine Gitney was on the pole with a 2:08.0, and he had about 7/10 clear of Ernst Kirchmeier, who's flown in from Austria to be here this week. We've got 4 different nationalities covered in the field. Not a lot of experience in this field, but there are a couple drivers with some Bathurst laps here before that you might see on screen. Outside row number 3, Rod Wilson in the 44, and Jim Policino, who's driven a lot of V8 cars here, but now he gets a 3-litre, 700 horsepower twin-turbo V6 car. We've got 3 different categories to watch out for, the Pirelli class being the top flight for the fastest drivers. Copper Shell is our middle category, and then the 488 category for the older model 488 Evo car. 16 car field, 4 nationalities covered, and ready for their first event of 5. It starts here at Bathurst. It'll wrap up at the Bend in September, and a lucky few may even get the chance to go race at the Finale Mondiale in Mugello, and that is in October, a 5-day festival of all things Ferrari.
It's like a world wrestling all-in brawl. all of the series around the world get together and race. And it is probably something about Ferrari Challenge that not a lot of people know, is it is kind of a ticket to bucket list. Obviously, we've got European drivers coming to the best track in the world, you know, Bathurst to race. But likewise, our drivers can actually go and race on places like Spa and Mugello and Imola and Monza as part of the series as well. So it really does open the door to Ferrari owners to race around the world.
What a view that is from the back of the safety car that peels away to leave the 16-car field, paced by Antoine Gitney from Sydney. And this is the first time that he'll be starting a race from pole, so a new experience for him, and he's drawn alongside a 2-time Ferrari Challenge champion, a real hired gun who's flown in for this event, so this is really going to test him. And on top of that, he did 7 further laps, Antoine, in qualifying, so his Pirelli tyres have done a few more laps around here. They're a very durable tyre, but that'll be something to consider in the latter parts of this race. The field now rolling around the last couple of corners and ready for a start. A famous brand in world motorsport. There are few car companies that can brag to have the storied history of Ferrari, and proof that they are expanding in their sports car scene as we get start for race number 1, Ferrari Challenge. Here we go then. A little piece of history gets written at Mount Panorama as Ferrari Challenge Australasia greets the green flag for the very first time, and a brand new series is ready to go at Bathurst. And what a start from Kirchmeier, straight across. So experienced in these scenarios, experienced on cold Pirelli tyres. And already everyone's scrambling to find their little piece of turn 1. And that's going to be close if Frisch can get out of the gravel, keep the boot in it. This is where 700 horsepower and about 740 newton meters of torque will come in handy, but unfortunately he's got some aero damage. The Austrian, he's out of there.
That was a great start by Ernst. He obviously went very defensive as soon as he got the nose on Antoine. Then maybe picked him at the lights, but it'll be interesting to see now if Antoine does sort of push ahead on those slightly older tyres from quality to try and close that gap and keep a bit of pressure early on. And of course, car 44 there on the screen, Rob Wilson is ready and waiting as well.
Was ready to snap up 1 or 2 spots. This is where it'll get dicey, trying to find your own little piece of Mount Panorama through from the cutting up towards Reed Park. Track's dirty, leaves blowing around. A little bit of a windy day here at Bathurst. The first time across the shelf then for this amazing new category. And these 16 ponies jump to life across the top. The prancing horse arrives at Bathurst. And it's an Austrian who leads the way.
It'll be interesting here as well with the, in qualifying, they're all trying to find their own space. It'll be interesting to see just how much the drafting effect on these long straights, particularly down Conrod's, going to play a factor in those easy overtakes that we might see at the bottom of the chase as well. And of course, where we've got a mix of the likes of Micho Stefan and Jared Ferrari up high there, the 296s and the 488s on the straight at the same time do have a power difference. So we will see some overtaking just purely based on that power difference of the 2 classes of vehicle here.
So here we go then, the first time down Conrod. And this has been pretty impressive from Gibby, not letting the race leader get away. Check out the speed of the Ferrari. Like we said earlier, 700 horsepower. A new aero package. Look at this.
291 in the speed, 292 in the speed trap, Rod Wilson.
And that speed trap is a little bit up the road from where the actual maximum speed would be on the data too. So they're pushing 295 kilometers per hour in a straight line. That's faster than the Ferrari GT3 will go, presumably in the race here this weekend. That was tight down there.
That was very close. I think I may have swallowed a fly at the same time there. That was a very, very close. I think that was being a little bit polite on the nose up the inside. But again, we see here ABK looking to the inside, but getting the door swiftly closed in their face on the way through.
That was tight. Up the mountain we go. Tim, clean first lap. And I want to know your thoughts after counselling these drivers as to how to approach lap 1. They've ticked that box nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess lap 1 in the books, try and get through without damage. Unfortunately, there might have been a little bit of contact that we saw early on at the race start at turn 1 there, but just get through. It's a long race, so just settle in, take your time, and try not to do anything silly.
And it looks like we've got a real fight between the leaders here as well. Kirkmare cannot seem to shake the tail of the chasing driver, Antoine Gidney. This has been, I know it's lap 1, but from qualifying to practice, it has been exceptionally impressive from Antoine, who topped opening practice here and then managed to back it up in qualifying. Replay the start then.
I think our race director, Anthony Jenkins, would be happy with that. It was quite a good formation. But look at that Ernst, just straight to the inside, super defensive straight away.
Oh, there was the
bit of contact there in the back. I think that might have been maybe David Trewone and David Frisch, I think, may have just come in contact there, a little bit of nose to tail.
Might have been Cameron Campbell, I think, actually.
Yeah, he was due to get a start in the 12-hour this week, but it's decided to just focus his energy on racing in the Ferrari. Back to the leaders, and it's close. It's really close.
So this is where that, as we spoke about, the slipstreaming opportunity of the second car. See how much of a difference it makes. As I said, they are a slippery car, but also they are producing a fair amount of downforce. So it'll be interesting to see if we can kind of get the toe on the car coming into the bottom of Conrod Straight.
Power tools and Ferraris, not typically something you would see used together, but just cutting off that loose bodywork and getting the back out on the track. 294 kilometers per hour through the trap for Kirkmare without the slipstream. That's impressive. Must have got an excellent run out of Conrod Straight, and in doing so, just fends off the chasing car. And I wonder if that's a little sign that maybe they've got a different setup in those 2 cars as well.
We do have in the challenge cars, we don't have the full sort of adjustment in all of the suspension and alignment that, say, a GT3 car would have, if some of the fans sort of know the adjustments there. But in the challenge cars, we do have full control of the ride height and alignment of the vehicle, as well as wing angle and things like that. So there's obviously regulations restricting how much wing, but certainly wing angle does affect obviously downforce, but then straight line speed. So as you say, there could be a slight difference there in setup on these 2 vehicles. One, of course, being an MC Corsa car, which is their Gittin 22, and then Ernst's car running out of Zagami Autosport, the Melbourne team. So definitely there will be some different setup there, and I wonder with Rod sitting in P3 at the moment, also a Melbourne car, if they're kind of hedging their bets a little bit with the setup between the 2 to get a bit more information for tomorrow as well.
Tim, it looks like the trailing car of Gidney's also picked up quite a few leaves in the front splitter as well. But these cars have a newly designed aero package that also includes new cooling system as well, with the S-duct that's worked at the front of this car too. So do you think that'll have much of an effect on the car throughout the course of the race?
Look, I think ideally you'd like to be in a position where you'd be leading the race and it was perfectly clean and clear, but I don't think it will cause too much drama.
488s are going at it, further back in the pack as well, trying to peel their way through some of the faster cars.
There's Micho Stefford there. He's one of our quicker drivers from the Club Challenge program. He's kind of a graduate from that program. Great to see him sort of stepping up to the National Series as well, but aside from that, also good to see the 488 sort of pushing beyond the 296s in some cases.
Let's check out what's happened down here at Hell Corner. And nicely down the inside, Jim Policina gets the move done and goes ahead of Jared Ferrari. So that's a 296 passing a 488. Just using that straight line advantage and relying on that all-new brake package redesigned for the 296, which includes brake-by-wire. So very different feel on the brake pedal between those two cars down at turn 1. 297 through the... Are we going to see 300 pop up on the timing screen this weekend? 297 kilometres per hour in a straight line that time for Gitney. These Ferraris are fast in a straight line.
I think as well the big yellow carrot dangling in front of him is probably helping push that number up slightly higher at the moment. But it is an exceptionally quick car. I mean, Tim, having spent a bit of time in the pre-season testing as well, what was it like for you sort of jumping into a car with this sort of power and aerodynamics? How did it feel adapting to that sort of car quickly? Yeah, look, it's quite incredible what they're capable of. And spending a little bit of time with the drivers earlier, it was kind of mentioning at the chase, you know, not to even lift out of the throttle completely because the cars have so much aero over the top of them, 850 kilos of downforce. You lift out of the throttle completely at 280 kilometres per hour and the car slows down really fast. So it's just a matter of just trying to maybe keep a little bit more throttle through the chase than what they're comfortable with, but the car's more than capable of doing it. We've got Cameron Campbell here having a bit of a look, maybe sort of sitting a little bit wide here. Luckily, kept it all in one piece, maybe dropped the tyre in the grass, but again, thankfully that fly-by-wire ABS system as well kept things in check for him.
Smooth save. Last time around, the leaders setting their personal best laps, a 1:10.3 for Kirkmeyer. Gitney, 1:10.2. They are all over each other. But have a look how quick Kirkmeyer's thing is in that first sector. Half a second in sector 1, and then straight away, Gitney's all over him across the top. So Gitney's car is very quick through sector 2, and Kirkmeyer's is very quick going up and down the mountain.
That tells me there's probably a wing setting in that car or the pitch in the car, the ride height front to rear, has got that car staggered a little bit to give it a little bit more rear end sort of grip, which definitely would be affecting the top line speed we're seeing, but then would have the advantage over the top of the mountain. Interesting strategy from the two to sort of work, I guess, in opposite ways in terms of trying to extract performance from the car.
Last time across the top, 3/10 quicker for the chasing 22. And he's tucked in again to that toe down Conrod. Here comes the speed trap. It's the 99, this time quicker, it's 292. So Gitney's only 289 kilometres per hour down Conrod. Very, very fast and still above the GT3 speeds down there as well.
And just approaching half race now as well, we're still seeing there's just a little bit of a move there from Ernst. A little bit of a wriggle in the rear. Thankfully held it together. That might give Antoine enough sort of gap to sort of close in for the climb up mountain straight now.
And he's not the only one out there with their hands full. That is Manu Nithyanantha, who is in that opening practice session today, did a 2:27, and then in qualifying did a 2:17. So talk about improvements. I don't know what you told him, Tim, but it worked clearly when he went out there and found 10 seconds between sessions. But that was across the entire field. Everyone was making such amazing gains.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite good to see that everybody took their time in that process. You know, there's nothing more important here about just getting laps, just gradually chipping away at it. Just slowly but steadily getting a little bit faster with each lap.
Because while it's a proud moment, Tim, for Ferrari to be able to come here and say that their first event ever for this brand new series was at Mount Panorama, it's also a very daunting place to have a first race.
It is, absolutely. You certainly need to take your time to get comfortable with here because it can bite, and as we know, when it does bite, it bites in quite a big way.
Last time by in sector 1, Gitney was actually quicker by nearly 4/10 on Kirkmeyer. They are all over each other, and I wonder around at what point will that advantage of the extra 7 laps start to pay off for the leader here?
And I expect it to be in this sort of next phase of the race. That sort of last 10 minutes is where they're going to start to see that tyre working a little bit harder, particularly if Antoine, we can already see he's moving around a lot more than Ernst, looking for opportunities here to get the nose up the inside. It's just working that tyre more and more and more. He really needs to sort of, I guess, give himself a position where he's got an ability to make an easy overtake, say at the end of Conrod, or possibly going up the hill where we see he does have that pace in the middle sector to build a buffer.
Can he get close enough for a crack at the chase? And that 99, it has got some straight line on it. Dead even through the trap, but no improvement down towards the chase that time. Oh, big one to McPhillamy and just backwards into the fence. Oof, you don't have many small ones there, and that could have been so much worse. Was it Manu, I wonder? Nipping onto that one backwards off there.
I was just sort of white through the dust then, so I'm not sure.
I think it might have been the 2-3-3.
It is Manu, and I didn't tell him to try that, just so we
okay, yeah. I was just singing his praises about getting 10 seconds of lap speed between practice and qualifying. And that car went off at a rapid rate of knots. 13 minutes to go in the race. Leaders still fighting at the front of the field. So much so now that Kirkmare's starting to think defensively. Up Mountain Straight, just parking the 99 on the right-hand side of the road. This is heating up at the front.
And depending on the situation with that car 233, it may bring out a safety car. So we may have limited time here for Antoine to get this move done. So I wonder if his coach and engineer are sort of really...
Thank you.
Oh no, and Kirkmare's in the fence. Straight off into the cutting. I think there was almost a moment when Gittany nearly followed him in. It looked like his car was sideways as well. And the leader has gone hard into the fence and is out of action. Where did that come from?
Safety car standby, safety car standby, safety car boards and flags, safety car boards and flags, all teams.
And if the safety car wasn't going to come out before, it certainly is now. And try as he might, the 233 isn't going to get going, despite the friendly encouragement from the race
leader
fans.
is currently coming down the mountain, so stand by.
And looking at the rear of that car, it looks like the rear wing's actually okay. Here we see coming over the top, maybe in the dirty air of the car in front.
Oh, got the front as well on the way in, and then only just lightly in at the rear. Could have been a lot worse.
And it's one of those situations where, here we go, here's Ernst as well, running just wide on that dirty line. We do see it here so often at the mountain. Running wide, coming into there and just picking up some dirt, losing that front end grip.
What a shame.
Hopefully superficial, but I mean, Antoine keeping the pressure on the whole time. They're obviously forcing that hand.
He's going to try and get it around and maybe get it back into pit lane. The good news is for him that it's not a progressive grid for race 2, so if he doesn't get to the finish of this race, he does have the chance to re-qualify tomorrow if they can fix that car and get him back here and ready to go for race 2, because we need more of this Ernst Kirkmare and Antoine Gittany fight.
Kind of a triple one, you will be coming up to the safety car.
And while it's not the way we want to see the lead of this race sorted out, you've got to say that he was under tremendous pressure right from the very first lap from the chasing Antoine Gittany. And that pressure, eventually, something had to crack.
That's right. I mean, it is... it's one of those things where those two cars keeping that pressure on, they did. Antoine, obviously, he was starting to have limited opportunities to have a look there. Ernst obviously trying to protect as much as he could, and unfortunately just running wide there. You could see the dust kind of coming up. Lack of grip there and obviously running wide, but being able to still drive it back's good. I mean, we've got the team from AF Course in Italy here supporting our local dealer team, so we've got an incredible team of resources there to repair these cars, a significant amount of parts with us here. I'm very hopeful we can get that car back on the grid for qualifying 2 in the morning.
Wow, that's certainly opened the door, Tim, for Wilson and Hutters and Policina now to fight for those last few spots on the trophy steps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got another chance here now that the field's compressed to they might have found some things and maybe chipped away at improving their lap time. So now that they're closer to some of the other cars at the front, they might be able to run with them and maybe put some pressure on and create a mistake.
Let's have a look through our class battles as well. And Jared Ferrari in the 277 488. Back in this pack of cars here is doing a nice job leading his class. And Dave Treverne seems to be top of Copochel at the moment, which is our middle category. And he's in car number 127. You can tell by looking at the banners on the windscreen what class they're in. Red is Pirelli, yellow is Shell, blue is our 488. You can also tell because they're in a 488 Evo Ferrari. You can tell they've got the very different looking front splitter on the car.
With 9 or so minutes to go, we hope that they can do a quick recovery on Manu's car. As you can see, everyone's swerving at the moment with their tyres. Antoine, I believe, is not, probably trying to conserve those tyres as much as he possibly can here. He's got Rod, as we said at the start, Rod looming large in the mirrors. So it's going to be interesting to see if we do go green for maybe 2 or 3 laps, how that last few laps are going to play out.
Yeah, there's certainly a little bit of time here to work with for our hard-working officials, many of which are volunteers, and they give their time to come and help out just so we can sit here and enjoy a good motor race. So we thank them for all the hard work that they do here, and they're very, very good at cleaning up race cars that are stricken on the racetrack. So I'd say with 8.5 minutes to go, plus a lap, there is a good chance that we should get 1, hopefully 2 laps of racing in here. Great view from on top at the Reckless Brewing Bar. Not a bad spot to enjoy a BX lager or one of the many varieties of beers that Jared and the team can provide from on top of the bar. I had a chance to go up there earlier today after qualifying for the Ferraris and just watch the world go by. A bit of research purposes, obviously. And I tell you what, there was a good vibe up there, that live music as well. So a lot of work's gone into bringing the atmosphere to the Maguire's Bathurst 12-hour in 2025. So great to have this race back on the Australian calendar and strong as always, and greeted with new support categories such as Ferrari Challenge Australasia. The next stop for this championship is Phillip Island in April, so going to all the good tracks with this series this year. A couple of stops at Sydney Motorsport Park before the series wraps up in September at the Bend. So a very East Coast based lineup for 2025. And one of those events, Ren, which is going to be very exciting, is an all-Ferrari show, which will be happening at Sydney Motorsport Park. It's still very much in the works right now.
That's right, yeah. Obviously, Ferrari Challenge will be the headline act of that, but within the Corsa Clienti, there are many different types of sort of, I guess, track day activities they do and customer activities. Some will be driving in their own road cars, doing track day sessions, but also the XX programs, and even maybe F1 Clienti will come out as well. So we did something like this back in 2014, Ferrari Racing Days it was called. And obviously this year, having a standalone event, we're looking at opportunities to sort of, I guess, create a mini version of that as the series is building momentum, growing on that year on year to bring it back to where we were, say 10 years ago, which is amazing.
It's very cool to have Antonello Coletta as well here this weekend, who is the global head of endurance and Corsa Clienti that you mentioned, which is their customer program. But that covers everything from the amazing 499P prototype racing that tackles the World Endurance Championship and the Le Mans 24-hour, and everything down from there as well, just to their track days and club challenge that you were mentioning earlier. Plenty of wind out there today.
And that might be where we're seeing that big fluctuation as well. I know here from the GT3 cars gone by, we would notice a 4 to 5, 6k an hour headwind. If we were running a steeper wing angle, we'd definitely notice, if we copped a headwind on Comrade Straight, we would notice a big difference on the run into the chase with that headwind. And maybe that's where we're seeing some of those fluctuations in early part of this race. We're sort of seeing, what was it, 297, 298 k's an hour. It's that little, if it changes from a headwind to a tailwind at the right time, it makes a big difference on this long straight here.
And Tim, is this something had to break there because it had been such a good first practice session? Everyone tried their hardest in qualifying and did it without ever going red flag at any point. It's almost a surprise that it was Ernst Kirchmeier, the most experienced driver in the field, who has 2 championships to his name and like 8 seasons of racing in these cars, that would be the first to bring out a safety car.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, and hopefully he's not being too hard on himself. It is quite a common mistake that we do see here at Mount Panorama, just running a little bit wide on the entry to the cutting. But I think in all seriousness, he's done a fantastic job. He knows these cars very, very well, but to turn up at a venue like this and be as fast as he has straight out the gate is a credit to him, and hopefully we can see him back towards the front in the next sessions. Yeah,
the good news is the format does favour him here this weekend. With tomorrow's racing, he'll be straight back into it, and hopefully he can put that car up the front again in qualifying and straight into another 30-minute race tomorrow. Amazing, the 296 Challenge car that has been developed by Ferrari, and it's the 9th model to be launched into Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli since it began 1993, season 1 back in Italy, and it's come such a long way since then. It takes over from the 488 Evo, which took over from the original 488 model, and we have had Ferrari Challenge in Australia before as a support category to the Australian Grand Prix at Albert Park, but this is something completely different now that it's its own series here that joins Europe, North America, the UK, and Japan as the 4 other championships some of which have been running for nearly 33 years, that European, the original championship. So a lot of experience from this series from around the world. And this new car, it is certainly up for the fight. Derived from the 296 GTB, which is the road-going model. And a not too distant cousin, of course, of the 296 GT3, which we'll see racing here this weekend with the folks from Arise Racing with 2 cars in the 12-hour. It's the first time, Ren, that Ferrari have elected to run a 6-cylinder motor instead of the V8s, which we're used to seeing. And on top of that, despite the fact it's not a V8, it's the most powerful motor they've brought to challenge.
Yeah, and they always seem to evolve the road car and the race car. You wonder how they could make it better, and every time it's a little bit faster, a little bit more powerful. It's the most powerful engine they've ever produced on horsepower per litre. And it's a fantastic engine in terms of its response as well. Even though it doesn't have the hybrid system like the road car does, the twin turbocharged, smaller displacement V6 engine means that it does rev very, very quickly, does accelerate very, very quickly. And of course, because we don't have things like balance of performance that the GT programs do, the car can run as its own category. So it is a little bit less restricted, you might say, than what some of the other cars are here this weekend.
So 3-litre V6, twin turbo, talking 700 horsepower, 740 newton meters of torque. It's a torquey, powerful 6-cylinder car. Obviously, it's mounted behind the driver, being Ferrari. Lays its power down beautifully. Multiple settings for traction control and ABS with this new brake-by-wire electronic system that's been introduced to this model of 296, and that's on top of the CCM R+, which is their carbon ceramic brake package, which is also filtered down from the Ferrari F1 program. So a lot of technology into this car. New aero package derived from the GT3. It packs an extra 18% more downforce than its predecessor, which is alone very impressive. But they're pushing at 250 kilometers per hour, 870 kilograms of downforce onto these cars. So they're doing you can imagine how much power you need to push through that kind of downforce. So for them to be doing 295 down Conrod shows you the sort of grunt they've got. Exactly,
and also part of it is the aerodynamic package, which is not such a huge aggressive rear wing. Whilst it does look big and proud off the back of the car, it's all about the fine things. The S duct in the front of the car, helping reduce drag in the front end, which carries that sort of they call it a boundary layer of air over the whole car, so the whole car becomes, I guess, less draggy the faster it goes. The big diffuser we saw of David Frisch's there at the start being sort of ripped, that diffuser produced a huge amount of the downforce and balance in the car as well. So it does mean the cars are very slippery, but do produce good downforce at those sort of speeds. And as we know, across the top of the mountain here, that sort of 160, 170 kilometres an hour speed going across the top is a huge amount of downforce on a car, particularly as we're seeing now coming over McPhillamy through Reed and Sulman. That downforce really makes a difference in giving the car grip and stability and speed through there.
Into the last 90 seconds of this race.
Yeah, safety car, once you pass the scene, increase your speed to 80.80.
And that's a good sign that we'll be getting some racing back with maybe one more lap to go. They're going to be doing anything but going slow after this one. We're getting ready to bring the noise back. And for a lot of these drivers, this will be their first safety car restart as well, and another new moment in their career and another new thing to get their head around.
That's right. In the Club Challenge program, we've done an extensive, what we call like an OLT, an observed license testing program. So simulated race starts, simulated restarts, full course yellows, even some of the protocols that are done in the series throughout Europe, we've practiced here for those drivers that do want to go abroad to race as well. So you're quite right though, and I mean, what better place to do a restart of a race for potentially a one-lap flyer to the checkered flag than Mount Panorama Bathurst.
So confirmation from race control. We're going to have a green checker, not a green-white checker, just a green checker. We're going to cut out the middle lap. Tim, your nerves right now as driver coach, knowing that they've got one lap to sort it out?
Possibly a little more than some of the drivers out there. But I'm actually excited to see how Rod Wilson handles this. He's probably has more race starts than the majority of the field put together. Yep. An old hand. We had a little bit of a chat earlier, and he just mentioned that he's just taking his time just to come to grips with everything, being out of the saddle for a while.
Restart.
He should have the most experience here, so it's interesting to see if he can get the job done on Antoine.
Especially with Ernst Kirkmeyer out of the race, you've got Antoine Gitney about to get to the restart here with not a lot of race experience. Rod Wilson, like you mentioned, tons of race experience across his different categories, and also Jim Policina back and forth. So the safety car leaves the field behind. Now they need to remember their training, remember what they've been told about how the regulations work, especially for drivers from overseas, because the Motorsport Australia rulebook is slightly different to how it works in other parts of the world as well. Maintain that speed back to the start-finish line. And Antoine Gitney, the local Sydney-sider, just 3 hours away from home, is ready to go. But can he run away from this field on the last lap? with plenty of experience in his mirrors. We've seen what pressure can do to even the best. 6.2 Ks to settle it.
And one thing to add from Rod's point of view, sitting in P2, is we do have a dealer trophy. So the winning dealer team, highest place, does win a trophy as well. Rod is the team principal of Zagami Autos, not the Ferrari Melbourne team.
Well, a couple might not have quite got the restart procedure down pat. As we get ready to go back to green flag racing, Wilson wasn't going to be giving up his advantage on the racetrack as the green flag flies at Bathurst. Race 1, the first ever race for Ferrari Challenge Australasia, is back under green flag. These Pirelli tyres would have cooled slightly as well, so there could be some more nerves with one lap to sort it all out.
And that's the hard thing here on a restart. I've done many of them in the 12-hour over the years, is if you think you've got just enough tyre temp, by the time you've done this long run up Mountain Straight again, the fronts have cooled again. So it does take a little bit to get them in that real sort of optimum operating window. And we saw that coming into turn 1. There are a couple of sort of almost out breaks of each other, but thankfully no more issues, and we've got through here, and hopefully we'll send this to the flag now on this lap.
Tim, if Antoine was feeling any nerves on that restart, he's not showing it. He's gapped the field up towards the cutting.
Yeah, absolutely. He's rock solid, isn't he? He's just putting on a bit of a display here, and yeah, essentially making it look somewhat easy, as he's created quite a big gap.
Posed a 15-second time penalty on car number 23. A 15-second time penalty on car number 23.
The safety car infringement on that restart for Cameron Campbell, who sits third in the race. But we'll pick up a time penalty for that one.
Yeah, and that's obviously going to hurt on a one-lap dash at the end. That 15 seconds with the field so compressed is going to put him a long way down the order at the moment. At this stage, we're looking probably last, unfortunately, the finishes.
Here we go then, last time across the top. That lead out to 1.5 seconds. 15 seconds, like you mentioned, covering first all the way down to Tony Baldwin. This is the last lap, last chance, last time. Down Conrod. Wilson's not going to be close enough. There's some signs of damage on the front of the Campbell car as well from that opening lap scrap with David Frisch at lap 1, turn 1. And he was certainly excited to get on with that last lap. With 2 corners to go, though. Steely resolve from Antoine, getting in his first race in this series, graduating up from Club Challenge, and what a proud day this will be for him and his family from across the Blue Mountains to Bathurst. And a little piece of history goes his way. The first pole backed up by the first race win here at Mount Panorama.
Fantastic drive by Antoine. The team at MC Corsa, which is the Ferrari Sydney dealer, will be absolutely wrapped with that. It's great that he's returned into the fold of the National Championship after doing Club Challenge with us. And fantastic, as Tim said, to see him sort of progress through that race, keep a clean head and get to the flag the way he's done. Great drive by Antoine.
He's probably thinking right now, I probably should have got into this whole motor racing thing a little bit sooner. Because, Tim, he's pretty good at it.
He is, and he has been one of the more impressive drivers that we've had the pleasure of dealing with at Club Challenge over the last few years. So it's good to see him back in the seat. 2.2 seconds, the margin of victory over Rod Wilson, who was a late entrant to the weekends, done a lot of training with these drivers as a coach as well. Cameron Campbell, we scored third there, but remember, we'll take on a time penalty, so that'll bump Jim Policina up to third in class. Jared Ferrari will win the 488 class. Dave Treverne will win our Copa Shell class as well. And unfortunately, Ernst Kirkmaier and Manu Nityanantha, unfortunately, not getting to the checkered flag on their first race this weekend. So let's check out some highlights then from the very first ever Ferrari Challenge Australasia race, and Ernst Kirkmaier making a wonderful start outside row number 1 to lead the field down in towards turn 1. There was some contact further back in the field with Cameron Campbell getting into the rear of the car ahead of him, which was David Frisch, unfortunately hurting the rear splitter of that car. And then Renato, it looked like it was settling into a really good battle between these two. You and I were pondering before we went live in this race, if the Austrian got to the lead of this race, would he just kiss everyone goodbye? But it did not work out that way.
No, and Antoine kept the pressure on very early and kept it consistent the whole way through, obviously, until that the issue we saw there. Manu just getting a caught. I think it's just the dirty air behind another high-aero car across the top there. Unfortunate for that car to be recovered. Hopefully we can get that car back on track for qualifying 2 tomorrow morning. And
then 1 lap later, before the safety car had a chance to even come out, wide through the cutting, and unfortunately heavy contact, the race leader out of action at the cutting. And that was right in front of Antoine Gitney, who actually did a really good job not to follow him in there, Tim, because you often hear of drivers who are just so busily watching the car ahead of them.
Yeah, for sure. It's quite easy to just do exactly what that driver in front did, but he did a great job not to.
So 1 lap restart to get us to the checkered flag. And Gitney did his job there, 2.2 seconds clear of Rod Wilson and Jim Policina. So it's an all-Aussie 1-2-3. And despite the leaves in the front of that car, no issue with performance, pushing nearly 300 kilometres down Conrod. Well done to Antoine Gitney. It's a windy day here at the mountain. We've got plenty more action to come your way from the 2025 Maguire's Bathurst 12-hour. Looking forward to plenty more of the Ferrari action tomorrow. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Renato. And we'll be back very soon here at the mountain.